The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program host and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by TCN TV Network Incorporated. Due to the social nature of this broadcasting channel, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. The TCN TV Network claims no rights to the said content. TCN TV Network cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. TCN TV Network is a messenger and sharer of information and strives to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this program.
Greetings upon greetings.
Welcome, everybody. We look so bright and colorful today.
Well,
Who am I representing today?
we cannot match the thing, you know?
The one and only Miss Ghetto, Elaine Robinson, rocking your shirt today.
Give thanks, give thanks.
You a picture once I wore the shirt, so I'm wearing the shirt. And you're right, it fits perfectly. So, I would like to, you know what, we have an interesting topic today.
Okay.
And I don't get, the last few weeks we've been following Dave and his master teaching self, taking us to the Neely Fuller. Last week he did the cultural identity, some pop culture movies and cartoons that have come out. And this week I was like, you know what, Dave, maybe I'll take the helm this week and
just maybe
get into what I do best, which is mental health. Okay, so we're gonna dive into it, but before we do, I do want to take the time to thank the people who keep us looking the way we do. I want to first of all thank my incredible production manager, Miss Selena McCallum. She's doing some great work. So thank you, my dear. And obviously, I've got to thank my host with the most, Mr. Dave Rankin, as well.
Big up.
And I want to thank everybody out there, the viewers who do give us their time, and we get your energy, and we thank you for just taking the time to be here with us each week. So what are we doing today? So today, I definitely wanted to do things a little bit differently. If you're watching the live, you won't be able to see it, but definitely, of course, everybody on YouTube, if you're watching YouTube right now, or if you're watching the rerun, there's that subscribe button underneath there. Definitely click on that to catch all the shows, not just ours. We have 9 great shows right now running on my TCN TV network, so definitely take that in. And let's jump into our topic. So no one can actually, like, when we talk about being alone and loneliness, being lonely and being alone, I want to make sure that people understand there's a clear distinction between the two of them. Okay? If we can accept that we can deal with the fact that at times, even though we're alone, we're not necessarily lonely. And we've got to make sure that we understand the difference between those two. All right? So psychological needs. So each of us has psychological requirements to be seen, recognized, appreciated, heard, embraced, or touched, and sexually satisfied. Those are just psychological basics. Okay? Before we go any further now, this is going to be a very information-rich episode, so I thought it would be best if I broke down some of the terms, because some of these terms are Western psychological terms. Now, the importance of understanding Western psychology is Western psychology has caused a lot of damage in the African history community. Let's just be real.
Right.
And the only way to understand the beast is to learn the beast. Okay, this is where we live. We live in the Western Hemisphere, for those who live in North America, the States, Mexico, and Canada. And a lot of the psychological terms you'll be hearing are what are used. And I want to say, when I talk about disorders or diagnoses, I'm only giving them a label because, again, this is what the Western philosophy of psychology has done,
Right.
label things. It's important for us to understand things. So I don't want anyone here thinking after I go through things like, oh my God, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with all of us. Let's just be real, okay? Like, it's understanding your damage and then learning to work through it. So loneliness, let's talk about that word first. So loneliness implies unhappiness over our separation from others. To be lonely is to feel excluded from a group, unloved by those around us, unable to share our private concerns, feelings, and being alienated from our surroundings, all right? Now that's loneliness. Solitude, which is being alone, on the other hand, denotes the positive experience of having time to oneself for recuperation or reflection. So it's different, okay? Loneliness is when you're feeling this pang of not being around others.
Right.
Being alone means you're actually taking that time for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's some theories that have to do with loneliness and being alone. One is called the social exchange theory. And this is the Western model, which is more of an economic way to understand human relationships. The theory suggests that people are aware of the costs and benefits of relationships and are motivated to profit from these associations.
Okay.
So that's a social exchange theory, okay? There is an Afrocentric viewpoint. Can you give us a quick viewpoint on that? That's just the Western way of looking at exchange. I think the African would be talking more about energy, but I'll let you speak on that briefly.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it definitely has to do with energy, whether it's now an exchange of goods, right? The barter system, which was very common, a very common practice, where, you can exchange some goats for, I don't know, for some cloth,
Right.
right? So there's an energy exchange between there, right? There's also an energy exchange now within the Council of Elders,
Okay.
right? If an issue, right, or a problem or a challenge comes up within a community or village, then they would go to their council of elders, and of course they would go ahead and exchange that energy, towards an actual more amicable situation or a better outcome, so to speak.
Okay, so to go off of that, along with the social exchange theory comes the mini-max strategy.
Okay.
So mini-max, this is an interesting idea. We seek to minimize costs and maximize rewards. That makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Naturally, we minimize the cost to ourselves in order to maximize our rewards. That's what would be considered more of a healthy social exchange,
Right.
okay? Actually, more healthy social exchange would be if both people are mutually getting from
Mutual.
that,
Right.
but that doesn't always happen.
True.
Okay, now these terms we'll be talking about later on in the show, but I want to bring them up now just so that we have them in our minds. So there's the rational confrontation. Rational confrontation is when a person learns to dispute his or her illogical thoughts about a given situation.
Okay.
Okay, so that's when you catch your thought
Mhm.
and you can change it. This
Okay.
takes practice, and we're going to talk about that more.
Hmm. Then
Then there's a dysfunctional thought diary, and this is when we would encourage a client to keep a journal in which he or she identifies and labels automatic thoughts. What are automatic thoughts, you say?
Yes.
This is a belief we form in response to life events. So, for example, an automatic thought is you get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you use the bathroom,
Right.
you may, for those who drink coffee, they may put on their coffee. You already have that time. You go into the kitchen.
Mhm.
You may wake up your children. These are things that are done. You tie your shoelaces.
Right.
Automatic.
Okay.
Walking, breathing. You don't have to tell yourself to breathe, because if you had to tell yourself to breathe all the time, many of us would not be here right now. So that's considered an automatic thought.
Okay.
It's just things that come automatically to you.
Right.
Okay. So depressive realism, and I thought this was an interesting picture. Thoughts in a person that will allow them to misjudge the amount of control they have in a situation. All right? We're going to get there. I just want to make sure I get these terms out to you so that when you hear them again, it's like you're able to make that connection.
That reference.
Okay? And negative attribution style. This is the last one before we go to break. These are individuals who are depressed who engage in self-blame, interpret and recall events in a more negative light, and are less hopeful about the future. Throughout this episode, I'll be hitting you guys now with some reflective questions, because in doing this, I'm going to be bringing some things to surface, and I want us always to be reflecting. I don't want to just be talking. There has to be some learning, and there has to be some growth, right, with these type of shows. So the first question I'm going to start with today is, how would you describe the opposite of loneliness? So you can actually put your comments in the little comment section, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. I don't know if Periscope's comments they do.
I'm sure they can get some comments over there too.
How would you describe the opposite of loneliness? And we will talk more on this when we get back on Here to Help You. See you guys soon.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity in our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. May your dreams all come true. Happy birthday to you.
We refuse to promote, report on anything negative in the community.
I'm so happy. Welcome back, everybody. I'm so happy. Dave, you're saying we're actually getting some engagement.
Yeah, thank you for the responses coming out of the African Black Psychology groups online to the Facebook group there.
Great.
Definitely jump online through to my TCN,
Yes.
through YouTube. By means, we definitely go ahead and field some more of your inquiries there.
Absolutely. Definitely would like to. And please share it out. Definitely share out this information. So if you were just joining us, we're talking about the difference between alone and loneliness.
Yes.
And what's the difference between those two and how it has affected members of our community. Because I'm going to tell you right now, one thing I know for a fact is many of us are feeling like we are alone. And we want you to know that that feeling is natural, but we need to start changing from this idea of loneliness, which is more of a negative way, to being alone. And we're going to talk about the difference now. So human beings are amazingly resourceful in developing strategies to escape the feelings of loneliness. Now let's talk about ways in which people try to get away from this idea of loneliness, okay? Some people, and I'm going to say this again, some people will stay in an unsatisfactory relationship just to avoid being alone.
Yeah,
That's a huge one.
of course.
Some people just don't want like the idea of being by themselves, right? Even though many of us were born alone, unless you're a twin.
We
Or
know
triplet.
we can always go ahead and attest that back to, of course, a number of situations which have taken place, right? With its roots once again taking place with Nelly Fielder's work, white supremacy, racism, right? I mean,
Okay.
we're looking at the exception, of course, of us, and when we learned how to do with our spirit, we learned how to go and connect to other spirits as well, right? But I mean, there wasn't so much of as a lack of, until, of course, foreign policies came into play.
So I want you to stop because we're going to talk about the difference between the individualistic community and society and the collectivist society.
Go on
because
with it.
Africans are more collectivist.
We're
Well,
supposed to be. We're supposed
we
to
were
be.
more collectivist until obviously we kind of got snatched up and brought here, and then we just became what
Individual.
they wanted us to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about ways that we avoid loneliness. So we busy ourselves in work and activities. We schedule every moment. We drink, smoke, overeat. We immerse ourselves in helping others and in our responsibilities. That's a big one. Mothers are big on that one.
Huge.
They will immerse themselves into just taking care of their children,
Right.
but they're still feeling very, very alone despite that. We numb ourselves with social media. That's huge. Numbing ourselves with social media. We numb ourselves with television, loud music, drugs, radio talk shows, other people's drama, compulsive shopping,
Yes.
sex, and even video games
Yeah.
can be thrown in there.
Of course. Of
okay?
course.
So lonely people tend to have an external locus of control, and I'm going to explain what that means. So internal and external locus of control. An internal locus of control means that you feel that you are personally responsible to basically what happens in your life, that you have control of that. It comes from the inside.
Right.
External locus of control means that you don't think you're in control of anything. So everything that happens to you is happening from the outside in.
Gotcha.
That can be very dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay?
Could see why.
We can't assume. So, okay, before I even say that, because of this, people who have an external locus of control, they're inclined to be very cynical and pessimistic about life in general because things are always happening
Right.
to them.
Right.
They are not in control of what's going on in their lives. Things are always just happening. Okay? We can't assume that people, even those who are close to us, that means people in your lives, like in relationships, you can't assume that they will understand our unexpressed needs and feelings. But many of us just think that because you've been with your husband for 10 years or the boyfriend for 5 years, that they're going to know exactly what you're feeling. You've got to communicate. It's huge. If we want people to know us, we are responsible for communicating ourselves to them. We cannot assume they're going to know that you're feeling what you're feeling, but a lot of us do that. I know you're responding, so I'm going to keep going. Keep responding, Dave. Keep responding. So let's look at the mental disorders that are related to loneliness. There's 4 major ones. And again, I'm just giving these labels because this is how they have been labeled here. You can find these in the DSM. Now, the DSM is a big old book about this thick, full of mental disorders. I mean, they have a label for everything. The thing about this book is that being gay was considered a mental disorder at one time, and they had to take that out. So, yeah, being
I can see
gay
that.
was considered a mental disorder, and they had to legit take that out. So this thing changes all the time, which is why I'm saying be mindful of how you diagnose yourself if you go on Google, because you got to be careful. I'm just
Right.
going to give you what was said. Okay,
Right.
There's schizoid personality disorder. So these are the loners, seen as detached from human relationships. The person experiencing this type of loneliness will not have a strong reaction to either praise or criticism. So where we would react to certain things, you won't see that reaction from someone who has schizoid personality disorder. They lack warmth and have minimal emotional needs. Okay? Then there's avoidant personality disorder. So this is the person experiencing this type of loneliness may avoid the company of others. Person usually fears being embarrassed, humiliated, criticized, or rejected by others. Okay?
Okay.
Then there's the social phobia. So this is a marked and persistent fear of certain social situations, especially those that involve some sort of performance, such as public speaking. So
Right.
these are people like Dave.
Get out of here. Yeah, try disrespecting team, man. I'm too.
I had to.
I mean, I have no
I
fear.
had to. No, you don't, but you don't talking.
Oh, but it's some people are just
They're not
they
really
just gravitate towards the public
speaking,
speaking
but
area.
you don't.
But
You haven't grown out of that yet?
listen, I like to play where my comfort levels are. All right.
All right, no problem, Dave. And of course, the big one that kind of goes, unfortunately, hand in hand with loneliness is depression. So depressed people are usually very negative thinkers, and they tend to engage in selective perception. Now, selective perception is where you select what you want to put your energy on. And if you're a negative thinker, guess where you're putting your energy? Negative things. It's unfortunate. So there's a cognitive triad, cognitive being mental, your mind. First, they feel negative about themselves. Second, they are negative about the world. And then third, they're pessimistic about their future. So there's that triad that's happening. It's your thoughts, then your behavior, and of course your actions.
Gotcha.
Okay? Negative attributional style. So this is usually a style, a characteristical style that they have, and it's a lot of self-blame.
Okay.
All right? And they tend to see situations in a very negative light. Also, I want to throw in this idea of learned helplessness. So learned helplessness, and I think the best way to do it, I use this picture because it's this attempt at a situation. And when someone who is depressed attempts a situation and it doesn't work for them,
That's it.
that's it. Now, mind you, where this young lady is bashing a guitar, it may not be that extreme, but she may just be like, I'm never doing this again. I can't do it. I tried. I failed. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I can't. That word can't comes out. That's called learned helplessness. It's where you start to convince yourself of your own helplessness because you've tried something and it didn't work out.
Right.
You may have only tried it once, but because it didn't work and you're stuck into that depressive mindset, you kind of stay there. And again, you can see how this can add to loneliness. You have any comments on this, Dave, before we head to break?
You know, this last one is very interesting because I'm beginning to see some of that behavior in some of our older students.
The learned helplessness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. They'll try it and say, "I just can't do it."
I can't do it. And they
So
give up. I
that's-
hate math. I'm not good at math.
So they're just so they won't attempt it ever, or at least
They'll not want to.
minimal effort towards it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially for those out there who are going through stuff like this right now, who may not actually recognize the symptoms. You know, I know we're just barely scratching the surface, right?
I'm just giving you guys a little bit of a taste. That's it, so you guys can have an understanding of the idea of depression and loneliness. Sorry, continue.
Gotcha. Right. We definitely ask those out there who have begun to recognize these symptoms or have seen it in others, please seek help.
Very important.
Right. And not just asking a brethren or asking, a family member.
Professional.
Seek those who are in the field, those who you can relate to in the field, who can go ahead now and give you the quality assistance that you need.
And again, let's stay away from learned helplessness because a lot of people be like, well, we want to find, there's no black psychologists. Look for them.
Mm-hmm.
We just talked about, what's that organization?
You
just answered them. Wow. He's getting old, boy.
No, they're not an organization. They're a Facebook group.
They're a Facebook group. Okay, sorry.
Right, the African Black Psychology. They're a Facebook group. Right.
Okay.
By means, I believe there are. I believe there may be a Black psychologist group here in
There
Toronto that may be a chapter of course, a larger piece.
If
The
you're
name
interested,
forgets
look
me
out.
now.
Like,
Yeah.
contact
them out.
us. Contact us. We can even do the work for you. You don't even have to do the work. We'll do the work for you. Don't worry. So when we come back, we're now going to look at the other side of loneliness, which is solitude. Solitude is completely different from loneliness, and we're going to get into the difference when we come back on Here to Help You. See you guys soon.
My name is Trish Curling, and I am an online coach, personal trainer, and yoga teacher, and your new host of Shaping Life, which is all about understanding that we have the ability and the control to take charge of our health and wellness. But we can't do it alone, and I can't wait to sit down with the best in the industry. Please tune in every Friday at 1 p.m. live here on the TCN Network.
At Benjamin Law, we understand the real cost of personal injuries. As the victim of an accident, you may be the one who's physically hurt, but your main concern is that your family are the ones who will pay the price. Benjamin Law will be there for you, helping, supporting, and working tirelessly to resolve your personal injury case. Call 1-855-899-4878 or visit benjaminlaw.ca and let our family of lawyers help your family.
solitude. That video is actually called Little Things That Matter. I definitely want to give credit to the videographer, the artist of that. So it's a 1-minute nature video by Hassan Farhan. And basically the video was about taking that time. These are things in life that matter that we miss because we're so caught up.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to get caught up. I mean, you look at we haven't recovered since the revolution, the Industrial Revolution, right? Which came out, of course, after, once again, the so-called slave trade, right?
Clearly don't think it was a slave trade.
Of
That's
course.
a different conversation.
Listen, for a trade to take place.
Okay, all right, that's another conversation.
Henry
Okay.
is.
Okay, so understand that the reason we resist spending time alone is because silence can be experienced as very threatening for people. It actually forces us to reflect and to touch deep parts of ourselves. And I'll tell you right now, from someone who's done a lot of work on herself, I will tell you now, to anyone who is about to undertake the journey of self, I'm going to tell you, it is not easy. And you got to prepare yourself to really dig deep and see all those ugly parts of you, because those are the parts that if you can transform them, will make you a much better person. But it hurts. Like, this journey is painful.
Right.
And it makes you think about things that you don't want to think about. But you have to think about them and face them and deal with them in order to really become self-actualized. I'm going to talk about what that means. So one of the number one things is about self-acceptance. So self-acceptance is a prerequisite for meaningful interpersonal relationships, okay? Time spent alone has a number of functions. Opportunity for self-evaluation, reflection, and for planning. I want to talk about the hierarchy of needs. And this is just like psychology 101. And I want people to understand. Dave, can you start from the very bottom, and we're going to work up this hierarchy of needs, because I think I need to explain this as to why that top one, many of us never reach there.
So we're starting with the physiological needs.
Okay.
So air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, safety needs, personal security, employment, resources, health, property, or we're going to go ahead and go with home with this one too.
Yes.
Right. Love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, and a sense of connection.
Okay.
Right. Esteem. So it's respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, freedom. And then there's self-actualization, desire to become the most that one can be.
So let's just start from the jump. Many of us don't even get to the first one. We don't have the first one covered. It is no wonder that many of us are still suffering. Some of us don't even have those physiological needs taken care of. Then security. In a lot of places that our communities live in, there is no security. They don't feel very secure. So I'm like, you've got to get some of these first needs met before you can even get to that idea of self-actualization. That should be what everyone wants to attain. But a lot of us get stuck at the safety needs and the physiological needs. We don't even touch love and belonging. We can't even get there because those first two levels aren't taken care of. And
Right.
then esteem, oh, wow. There are people in our community, we hate ourselves,
Yeah.
which is why many of us are bleaching our skin, okay? Because we
Right.
don't have any love for self,
Right.
all right?
Right.
So it's important that we understand those needs and understand why many of us don't even reach that top need. But if you have, and if you aim to, self-actualized people prefer to spend time alone. Now,
Right.
again, they're not lonely.
Right. They just are comfortable in their own skin.
They're able to, yes, they can have that solitude. They can take time to take in things like an ant crawling,
Right.
or the sunrise, or the sunset, right? These are people who have taken the time and don't mind being alone. This kind of separation is self-chosen and comfortable and is viewed as actually enriching. So do you see the difference between solitude and loneliness? People who are experiencing loneliness, that's not enriching for them. That's
Right.
like,
They need to be around people.
they
Or-
need people. And again, there's that need for people. Someone who is self-actualized, they don't need anybody. They love company. They enjoy company. But they
Right.
don't need company.
Mm.
Okay? Self-actualized people are inclined to be uninterested in social chatting or party going. I know some people like this who just know all about it with the mix up.
Right.
There's a reason for that. They're not stuck up. They're not stush. They might be. Maybe they're just stush with their time. They don't have time for the drama. They don't have time. They're too busy enjoying life and actually taking in life. So I will say this. For those who are watching right now, I want you to just, can you throw back up those the hierarchy of needs, please? I want you guys to be real with yourself. Where are you on this hierarchy? And mind you, this is fluid. You don't get to one need and just stay there, because sometimes we can get, I would say I'm self-actualized now, but there's times where my physiological needs are not being met.
Right.
And I have to deal with those.
Right.
So where are you in your development right now? I'm going to end with another video on taking in life and taking in having the ability to enjoy solitude. And definitely I want you to put your comments in the box below. Please do. And Dave, we're going to ask, when I come back, I'm going to ask you, before we go into it, because our next segment, we're going to talk about what we can do to deal with loneliness.
Correct.
Okay? But I want you to think about it. What level are you? Where are you on that hierarchy? So we'll end with this video, and we come back, we'll discuss it some more right here on Here to Help You.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Greetings, everybody. Greetings. Welcome back. I'm very happy that you were able to join us today. I'm hoping that this discussion has been helpful. If you are just joining us now, today we're talking about the difference between loneliness and being alone, loneliness and solitude. And our last segment, I actually left a question for you guys on the hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Sorry, my mind just slipped there for a second. So we're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I asked Dave, before we go into our ending, kind of giving people solutions, because I don't like to just present things, not offer solutions.
Right.
Where would you say, Dave, you are on Maslow's hierarchy? And again, remember that it is fluid.
I would say that on good days, right, I'm all the way at the top. It's self-actualization on good days, and that's where everything is flowing. Of course, my day is well organized. I'm doing things not even just to progress for myself, but progress for the business, right? Progress in regards to my career as well, right? But it is fluid, like you said. So some days, of course, you know what, like I would drop, right? My base needs are taken care of. In regards to, of course, air, water, food, so on and so forth. So I'm not actually at the base, right? Safety, definitely sometimes, right? Love and belonging, I've taken care of that, because it's not even just because we are together, right? But in regards to now being able to love myself more,
Very important.
right? And better, that is, right? Understanding in regards to like, it's okay to make a mistake, right? It's okay not to be to come off so whether it's well reserved or even perfect, so to speak, right? So it is fluid for me, and that I would say.
But you would say you spend most of your time at the top. You
Yes.
become self-actualized.
Oh yeah, I mean,
agree. Me
because
too.
the path is clear in regards to what it is that not only just what we need to do, but I need to do as well, right?
Okay. Good. So guys, we definitely want to hear from you. Leave your comments below. Now let's go into some solutions. So the consequence of having an extremely, because I would say Canada, United States, we are very individualistic. extremely. And having to cope, I think it's been actually, because we're so individualistic, it's been like an epidemic for depression. I think depression has become an epidemic because we're so alone. Some of us feel so lonely.
Yeah, of course.
What is needed
It's tough.
is a change
Right.
in orientation from self-focus
Mm-hmm.
to a greater attentiveness to others. So I know you have something to say about this thing.
It's tough. It is. It's very hard. It's hard not only just to, of course, what are people lacking is trust,
Yeah.
right? And I'm going to use the word blind trust, because if you're part of an organization or wanting to become part of an organization who is doing something, right, that resonates with your spirit, right? But it's like you're ifing and butting and, or you're on the fence, of course, of not having just one foot in and one foot out. You have to make a decision, right? And that decision does come down to, of course, that leap of faith, that trust, that blind trust in a sense as well, right? For those who play partner or so to speak, right? You have to go ahead and actually there's a trust factor that has to come in there, right? Because you're working towards a greater good, and that greater good is simply making sure that, when your hand draws, right, so to speak, and we're speaking economics here, right, you have enough for yourself. But it isn't just for yourself now, it's making sure that, you're playing your part each and every week so that everybody,
Everyone has enough.
what they say, every muckle make a muckle or something like that, right? So what it means, like, you don't know, no?
I'm sure it wasn't that. Whatever you just said. I'm almost sure it was. I don't know what it is, but it's not that.
All right,
Okay.
take it. All right.
So, you know what? One thing they did say is there are two strong ways to recover from the predicament of not having as many social relationships as we would like. One way is to give back. Like, it's so simple. Being good company so that others will like being around you, right? Learn better social skills so that you will grow and know what to do with people once you've attracted them. Because once you put yourself out there, people are going to come. And now what? Now you got to know what to do. So it takes work.
Yeah.
This isn't easy. Don't try to find the right person. Be the right person. You are the right person. People will come like a moth to a flame.
True.
It will happen.
True.
I have a question, and I definitely want you guys to think about this for this segment. And definitely, again, leave your comments below, whether it's on the Facebook or the YouTube page. Would you be your own best friend? I'd be my own best friend. I think I'm cool as hell. Okay? I'm funny. Okay? I am funny. I can be funny. You can't be funny. I'm funny. Okay? I'm a good person to have around. Yes, I'm a little ratchet sometimes, loud and obnoxious, but like, it's fun. It's fun. Okay. So there's a technique called rational emotive therapy, and these are things that I want you to keep in your mind. Definitely keep this in mind when you're going to see somebody. This is more based on the assumption that emotional problems arise when a person has unrealistic beliefs about their life. So these are triggers. People will say things to themselves in an ongoing flow of internalized sentences. Now, if these internalized sentences are positive, great. If these internalized sentences are negative, not so great, okay? Because now you're in your head, and this happens to many people. And this is how this downward cycle happens. This is how depression happens.
Right.
These internalized sentences. So this internalized dialogue contains both negative and positive messages, and you've got to be aware of these messages happening in your head, okay? Now, what if it is for negative messages? What do you do with them? So there's a technique called rational confrontation. These type of things should be occurring with, obviously, a professional, but they're things for you to be aware of. So a person learns to dispute his or her illogical thoughts about a given situation. So I'm going to utilize myself as an example in this, okay?
Okay.
Something that I would tell myself that's illogical is that someone is lying to me all the time. More specifically, you, Dave.
Okay.
Okay, let's take it home. So I have to sometimes, when Dave says something to me, the first thing that will come to my head is you lie. Okay?
Go on with it.
I've got to block that. That is my responsibility to block because it sucks living in doubt all the time and not trusting someone. It's the worst feeling ever. And of course, that can lead to, let me go search his phone. And you know what they say? When you look for something, you find it.
I just wanted to go and take my
Drink your
drink
water?
first. Yeah. Just in case I need to respond.
Anyways, so the majority of us, our appraisal of reality is flawed by unrealistic patterns of thought. A lot of these thoughts are picked up in childhood. It's huge. The biggest one is from childhood.
Yes.
You have these thoughts of the world that are just not real. They were your reality. Let me make sure I'm clear. They were your reality. It just doesn't make it the right reality.
True.
Just because it's your reality doesn't mean it's set in stone. That's the way it's supposed to be. But it's being able to identify those. Very important. Another way that our unrealistic thought patterns can happen is through trauma. That's another big one.
Right.
And this trauma can happen at any point in your life. It doesn't have to necessarily be when you're a child. The younger you are, sometimes it does have a little bit more of a lasting effect on you.
Right.
But this can happen even when you're older. This happens a lot in relationships. So one guy cheats on you, or even for guys, a girl cheats on you, and you think that every girl after that will cheat. Maybe 2 girls cheat on you. Right? Maybe 3 girls do. The question has to be now, why are women always cheating on you?
Correct.
Right? We never look at our response.
That's what it comes down to,
Why is this always
right?
happening to you?
The common denominator,
You are the
right?
common denominator. So
There
what
you
is
go.
happening for you? Why these things are happening all the time? Something I had to do. I swear, and it was tough because it's like, it's easy to say it's everyone's
over.
fault.
Yeah.
They always cheat on me.
Right.
But what about what I was doing, which was not good?
Right.
And I had to clue into that, right? But it did cause a lot of negativity in my life. So let's move through the rest of these so that we can make sure that everyone gets the information. We can get out of here on time. Dysfunctional thought diary. I would love for everybody to be able to do this. So this is a journal that you keep that identifies those automatic thoughts that we talked about in the first segment.
Right.
If you remember from the beginning of our show, these are beliefs that are formed in response to a life event. So a dysfunctional thought diary is actually a diary that you keep these thoughts in so that you can actually look at them and see what you've been thinking. You would be surprised how much negative things you think about in one day in comparison to how much positive things you think about. And it's this understanding that will allow you to say that, look, I need to do something different. Maybe this is why everything in my life is so bleak. Because I keep thinking these negative things, but you're not even aware of it because they're automatic, okay? So the last thing I want to talk about is something, again, this is why it's important to see a professional. If you are feeling depressed, if you're feeling loneliness, take control, okay? Something they might do with you, it's a cognitive behavioral technique, and it's called cognitive restructuring. And this is when people change what they say to themselves about what is going on in their lives. So again, it's putting a stop. I just banged the mic. I'm sorry. Was that loud? Impact. And putting a stop to those thoughts that you have that are not true. Guys, I really hope, again, we just scratched the surface of this. We really, really did. And I want you to know that if you have questions, if you need some help, you can reach out to either Dave or I. We will find help for you. We are here to help. That's the point of this show.
For sure.
Right? And we want you to know that you're not alone. I've felt both loneliness and alone. And I'll tell you this, feeling alone is way better than feeling lonely. I'm going to tell you, I would take alone over loneliness every day because I choose to be alone, but I am never lonely.
True thing. A few things, I guess, before we go ahead and end. By means, the organization which I was referring to was the Association of Black Psychologists.
Okay, yes.
Right. For those of us who were of Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Naeem Akbar, Joy DeGruy. These are some bigger names, and of course in the field. For here in Canada, I believe they may have a Toronto chapter here. I'm not entirely sure, but by means we can go ahead and look that up at some point. Beautiful.
The Ontario one.
Right.
Yes. It's here.
Beautiful. I think what you said last was probably one of the more practical items for people is to keep that journal, whether it's of course written, whether it's just recorded, right?
Everyone has a phone. Put it in your notes.
Right. This way, of course, at the end of the day, by means, when you do your self-reflection, you can go ahead now and play it back, right? And if you think there's something wrong, by means, once again, please go out and look for help.
Reach out.
It's so important.
Reach out. Guys, thank you so much. Definitely tune in next week. Up next, we have the beautiful Erica on her show, what matters. I think she has a really like interesting guest on today. So stay tuned, and we will see you guys next week on Here to Help You.
Peace and love, family.